Hi, good afternoon to all of you. So, Vallabh Bhai, for 4 years I worked under you, and you took so many of my interviews. Now it's my time.
Yes.
With your permission, I will start. Enam was an entrepreneurial journey, and today it has become an institution. Many people in the audience are individual entrepreneurs. They have worked very hard, but they are still one-man shop. They are individual centers of excellence. What will be your advice to them in terms of building an institution?
I think there comes a stage where you feel the buoyancy, that you think you will go some distance. You never know how far you will go. But I've seen that sometimes you can live an individual life, which is also kind of institutions, and you do see people who have lived a fabulous life even as individuals. So I wouldn't make too much of an organizational institution only. And I think there are 4 or 5 elements to that. First is inspiration. That do you see in your mind doing something a lot bigger than just yourself? And then whether that is followed by an intellectual conception of it. Just having an idle dream is no good. You see some kind of plan. And you are able to take action on it. And review and renewal come next, because everything keeps changing. So I think in my life, in every aspect of my life, I have followed these 4 or 5 steps that have a large ambition, be inspired by something much bigger than your immediate self, create a conceptual plan, execute, review, and renew. So I think it applies everywhere.
Thank you, Vallabh Bhai. Vallabh Bhai, there are many people in this audience who are chartered accountant or lawyer in terms of their background. They work very hard for their customers like you have worked all your life. And what will be your advice to them in terms of scaling up their business? And second thing, today all of us continuously face a lot of changes. Market is volatile, regulations keep on changing, customer behavior keeps on changing. So how do we create that ability to accept change gracefully? So scaling up and accepting change.
You just talked about consistency, right? The more it changes, the more it remains the same. And therefore, there are some rules of engagement which never change. That if you, very early in my journey, 2 things happened. One, I decided to stop what I was not liking. So I was practicing as an accountant, and I realized that I may have been academically brilliant, but my heart was not an accountant. So I just walked out of my practice, not knowing what I was going to do next. So you have to be very passionate about what you do. The second thing is rules of engagement. So very early on, I started telling my people, are you the person that you would like to deal with? So try and think of the other side. So if you are so selfish, I want my commission, I want my sale, etc., it's no good. But if you think of the other side, he said, this guy wants to talk to an honest man, a consistent man, a knowledgeable person, and someone who will always keep him out of trouble. And if in trouble, he'll stand by him. You will find, Nilesh, that's what we stood for all throughout. That clients swore by us. I mean, I feel so humbled that the best of people walked into my office that, oh, back home there is a dream that NM should, take them IPO, because you will stand by. And there are many stories, and maybe one I will share with you was one of Air Deccan. Air Deccan was the first low-cost airline. It caught the country by imagination and storm. And the same thing happened with the captain, Gopinath. And he says, no, Vallabh, I want you. Now, as I went deeper into the company, I realized many things were not solid. And so there were 5 bankers who he appointed, because Air Deccan was a big brand and every day in the news, etc. As they realized that things were not as solid as they appeared, 3 scooted. Only two remained. I won't mention names. One couldn't scoot because of, again, a technical reason that they were invested in it. But I said, Captain, I held your hand. I'm not going to leave you. Had I said no, the airline would have stopped in next 7 days. It was so bad. The hope that there will be an IPO, the show went on. And then we could not delay the IPO any further. We opened the IPO. The day we opened the IPO, market tanked by 800 points. The market went into circuit because UPA elections, that 2004 election, suddenly there was no majority and the rest is history. The market tanked. And this is the first day of the IPO. So it was huge. I said, look, 4 people have already, 3 people have gone, the 4th didn't matter. And what do? We pull the IPO. I said, if I pull the IPO, dream of this nation to have a low-cost airline will go with it. Forget just Captain Gopinath. We must do something. We kept the IPO open. We changed the price band. Fortunately, SEBI had just brought in rules that you could change the price and continue. And some small riff-raff issues had done something like that. So we were the first major issue. We did that. We got the IPO subscribed by begging, borrowing, whatever, etc. And I have seen this again and again, that how you are rewarded for your good work and integrity work. IPO traded well. All the initial investors were able to exit, and that company merged with Kingfisher at, not in too much into the future, and the rest is history, as they say. So we saved not only an airline, but the dream for the country. So I think, are you that person who will stand by the client? Will you keep him out of trouble? I think so. Therefore, that's what Enam stood for. And one thing, of course, is to find a partner, as I found. To get a partner like Nilesh Shah is an absolute dream. So I think whenever Nilesh and I meet, in the last several years, 90% of the time, we are only talking about how lucky we are and our spiritual interests. So I think having that kind of harmony in your organization where key people think the same way is extremely important. So be passionate, be the man you would want to deal with, and be lucky so that you can find a partner of that kind.
Vallabh Bhai, if I take the liberty of describing you, you are omnipresent. You are available to government, you are available to corporates, you are available to entrepreneurs, you are available to HNI clients, you are available to retail clients, you are available to even acquaintances. You are always there for everyone. There are so many people in audience who also have to be available to their clients, but they are not as successful as you. So what will be your advice to them in terms of building connect with the customers like you have built with everyone?
I think it's just a matter of being passionate, that one cannot do all this unless you are passionate. I mean, I wish it was as good as Nilesh is making out to be, but I would want to tell you another story about, being your time management. So if you distribute uniform time to everybody, you cannot have relationships. But if you give time to people when they need it most, they will still value the relationship. Then you can afford not to be present with them on many, many different occasions. One extraordinary experience of my life, and I can't feel grateful enough for whatever happened in my life. Morning papers are full of SR announcing the deal. And soon after the Ruiyas signed the deal with Mr. Putin and Mr. Modi, they called me. He says, Vallabh, we just signed the deal, and we can't forget that we have SR oil because of you. So this is a story not known to many people, but those who can go back into history, and I don't know if it is in the archives. So we did the issue, I think, way back in '95. And the issue received, and I won't go into detail, the kind of hot reception that no other issue has seen. The issue almost didn't happen. The issue closed, all kinds of difficulties, in approving the allotment than in sheer listing. Listing in one exchange was approved. We had mentioned we will approve it on other exchanges. Difficulties came up there also. During that period of roughly 2 months, it used to take a long period of time to list, all kinds of difficulties, including court cases being threatened, company law being used. I was sitting at SR office every day. There were even small tasks I didn't leave to anybody. I said, I need to know what's happening. We are facing something, and I will fight it. And they said, Vallabh, obviously I was not the only banker, there were many bankers, but I was there every day. And can you imagine my happiness that on a day they do a 80,000 crore deal, they make it a point when you're surrounded by BRICS leaders. He said, oh no, one person we can't forget is you. So I think just having this passion for what you do, it didn't matter. They said, Vallabh, you write a check for your fees. I said, no, I did my duty. If I started something, I must do my damnedest best not to scoot from the responsibility or possibility of, I'm explaining, but I'm just there. And and the second thing is, if you can't drop what you don't believe in, where there is no value to add, you can't keep on doing new things. So as I said, renewal, I've understood renewal as very important in life. So you must renew yourself. That's how you remain young. And so I would say that to whatever extent, if you feel that I have succeeded, it's because of these two principles.
Sure. Thank you, Vallabh Bhai. Vallabh Bhai, again, I can describe you. You have out-of-box solution for many things. And I've experienced that personally, so you can't say that I'm just describing something. How does one become as knowledgeable as Vallabh Bhai?
Yes, sorry?
As knowledgeable as Vallabh Bhai. How do I reach your level?
I don't know, how knowledgeable
no,
I
you are
am,
able
but,
to see a lot of other things which people are not able to see. For example, some of the advice which you have given to the government on some of the steps which they have taken. This could have been taken in the country 60 years back also. So clearly,
you see that sa vidya ya vimuktaye, this is a sentence from that to be liberated, you must be knowledgeable. I think it's your desire to be liberated from ignorance, that's what makes you knowledgeable. And not having any selfish interest beyond what you have disclosed is what makes you credible. So whether you are talking to somebody in an ordinary fashion, or you are talking to somebody like the government, or you're talking to sensitive relationships, husband, wife, children, etc., I think the rules of the game remain the same. That before you speak, have you thought yourself that you are qualified to speak? And I think while I mentioned the rules of engagement remaining the same, I did not elaborate, but I would want to elaborate, that we may research an article of our business. It was so important to us. And even now people will come, though even Nilesh and I are not big practitioners of investment, but people want to come and talk because we will not speak without knowledge. As a matter of fact, if you look at the possibility of knowledge today, is infinitely greater and easier than what it was when we started 30, 40 years ago. I remember when we started and we became rather popular, many times Nilesh and I would laugh, oh, we are able to trade successfully because we know what is the capital of the company, or we have read the balance sheet. People didn't even know the basic facts. Sorry to say, but many times I do come across finance professionals who haven't done their homework. They aren't thorough. We had a case in our office. We had somebody who was a CFA, and we said, how many balance sheets have you read outside your curriculum? I remember I went through an illness, and I think in a period of 3 months, I read at least 100 balance sheets. This was before I came into the stock market, because I said, look, so I asked a friend who had a lot of investments. So I think you've got to be very thorough about what you have to say. And then it becomes an intoxication. You really want to know, because sa vidya ya vimuktaye, as the Upanishad says. it's not for the results, it's just for the sheer pleasure of knowing.
Over last many decades, you have taken so many companies for IPO. Some became Infosys, some became Mothers and Sumi. In the audience, there are many entrepreneurs. What will be your advice to them to become next Narayan Murthy or next Vivek Chand II?
Well, even Narayan Murthy probably cannot become a Narayan Murthy again. So it's better to walk your own journey. And what is common in whether you are a small entrepreneur or a large entrepreneur is that never forget that you don't control success. If you are after success, there is no formula. But what indeed there is a formula for is excellence. And that's how I have lived my life, and that's what I would advise you, that are your processes, mental, physical, intellectual, emotional, excellent, not just adequate. If you continue to work on taking them to the next level, Six Sigma, the chance that you will become somebody in life is disproportionately high. My guru, I have had many gurus, one of them, Dr. Rishi Kumar Pandya, used to say this beautifully. He says, people come to me and say, how do you know so many more things than any of us catch? He says, I don't have a sixth sense, I only use my five senses very well. So I think all what we have, if you use very well, in an excellent manner, people will think you have a sixth sense.
If one has to learn out of communication, it should be from you. I have personally experienced how you have convinced clients on things which we couldn't convince them for months. In this audience, many of entrepreneurs go and talk to their clients. But again, does the client always listen to them? I leave the judgment to them, but my answer is unlikely. So how do they become as effective communicator as Vallabh Bhai so that the client starts eating from our hand?
I wish I had any perception like this. Every evening when I go home, my communication skills are tested very severely. I just, there's no guarantee that you will get success. Therefore, as I said, that you can control your processes, never the outcomes. And I think one responsibility that every communicator has to have, and often it doesn't happen, is that you anticipate the result of what you will say. I'm angry because something is bothering me. The other person may have no connection with it. The other person may have a completely different perception. So if I say something out of my emotion, it is my need. The other person has nothing to do with it. So if I go to a client and getting that client to buy something or to act in a certain manner is my need, I have no idea what is the other person's need, how the other person is going to. So the biggest principle in communication, or rather two principles are, one is, do you listen? You have to listen a lot more than, as some shair said, that इंसान को चाहिए कि वो सुने ज़्यादा और कहे कम, क्योंकि खुदा ने दिए हैं कान दो और जुबां एक. So I think that, and the second is, please anticipate the result of what you're going to say, and then you can alter your communication accordingly. With these two principles itself, I think one can do very well.
Okay. We could have gone on and on to learn from these two stalwarts, but obviously there is time constraint. Aditya, can we take some questions from the audience? Just one question. So one question, if you want to ask, which I have failed to ask them. Can the mic go to center?
This question to Vallabh Bhai. Everyone knows, sir, that you have created wealth by identifying a right stock well in advance, and I don't want to name those companies, but it's known. What are the basic principles you follow when you pick up a company for investment?
I think in economics there is a principle that what has value? Diamonds will have no value if there is abundant supply. So only rare things have value. So if you look for rare qualities in your company, so whether rareness will come either, from the brand that they have, capital efficiency they have, the management that they have, and obviously management is at the top. There are very few good managements, good from integrity and capability point of view, and having a business model right. So if you look for them and you stay with them for long term, you will get 7 on 10 right. You won't get 10 on 10 right because things are difficult. So I think investment is a very simple process, and I think life too is a simple process. I think the difficulty that I've seen in many people is that a tree that grows big, has a particular seed. It may look the same size as some other seed. So look for seeds that grow tall. In your own life, be that seed. So the method to win in short term and method to win in long term, they are completely different. It is not that short term will become long term. It never becomes. So I think investment is the same thing, that if you see companies that can be expected to go for a long time, अरे ये साल chemical का turnaround हो गया, so let me invest in it, कि भी government की policy change हो गई, so मैंने आमा झंपलावा दे, those things don't work. Most of the time, all news media, a lot of the advice, etc., is short term. The short term has nothing to do with long term. They're completely different.
Thank you, Vallabh Bhai.